AA80 lower valve body 8800. Let's see here. Best place to start at, I guess. Put this valve stem up. Spring. This is an adjustable plug. You need to pay attention to where your adjustment was before. Mine was right there, but that does not mean that that is where yours is going to be. You need to make sure that spring is sitting in that pocket right there. And here's our retainer, and it looks like it's sitting in there this way. Just like that. And I think we should do this other one down here next. Stem up again. Spring. End plug. And at the time of doing this, there is nothing available for this valve body. So, if your retainer has a rounded side and a flat side, the flat side goes this way so that the end plug is resting on a flat part. Yeah, the end plug is resting on the flat part. We have this solenoid here. The retainer is going to fit in that slot right there. And in that slot right there. Temperature sensor, or pressure sensor, I'm sorry. And in that slot right there. Make sure you put your solenoids back in the spot they came out of. That little spot right there. And right there. Right there. Right there. Well, not wanting to slide in there for some reason. I think this is the one I lost. This pin may be slightly too large for it, so I'm going to have to find another pin. When I do get the right one, the retainer goes there. Bracket goes on here. 2 8mm bolts. with this solenoid. Goes in there with a 10mm that holds that in. And this solenoid and 10mm holds that in. Alright, let me go get that straightened out, and then we'll put the small parts on. Manual valve. Manual valve goes in right here. Let me get this lined out, pictures taken and measurements, and get this bracket on there, and we'll put the small parts in. Pressure relief ball, 313 thousandths steel, and the spring, and then the retainer. The spring has to fit that little pocket right there. And it has to go down beside that little ledge right there. Just like that. We have a pressure relief spring and valve, and then we have 14 filters, open end up, and they have to poke through the separator plate, so make sure that they all do, that you don't squish them. So one of these apparently is a different size, and it goes right there. So the rest of them are .400, close enough to outside diameter, and this one is .452. See how much of this we can get done before this battery dies. Upper valve body, 8800 spring, long stem in, plug, retainer, stem out, spring, plug, retainer, stem in, long stem, and spring, hollow end of the valve in here, retainer goes in that slot. So, accumulator, spring, end plug, retainer, stem out, drone hole, spring, end plug, and retainer, stem out, spring, end plug, retainer. Inner seat goes in this way. 250 thousandths steel ball. Outer seat goes in with the hole in. And this end plug or retainer is just going to fall out, so you might want to put you some grease on it. Spring, make sure the long stem of the valve gets in that spring. And retainer, spring, valve with the stem in, end plug, retainer, valve with the stem out, spring, sleeve, make sure that the hole is facing this hole right here. Hollow end of the valve up. Spring, end plug, and retainer. Inner seat goes this way. I think this ball was 155 thousandths. Middle seat goes with the short end up. Another 155 thousandths ball. Outer seat. Retainer. Stem up on the valve. Spring, end plug, and retainer. This valve has a spring seat that sits on it. You might want to put some grease on it to help facilitate this. Outer spring, plug, doesn't matter which way it goes, the retainer goes in that little slot. And retainer. Alright, valve with the little stem up. Sure the spring gets on that little tip. Outer spring. plug does not matter which direction it goes. The retainer goes in that slot. The seat goes on that tip of that valve again. Spring, plug does not matter which direction it goes. Retainer goes in that slot. Alright, 8 check balls, and they are 213 thousandths. And if I was putting this in a vehicle, I would be putting new check balls in it, and it also would need a new separator plate because the gaskets are coming off. But you can either take the old gaskets off and put the ones that come in the kit. You can run it without the gaskets, or you can get you a new bonded plate. Personally, I'd go with a bonded plate or nothing. Come on now, where are you at? There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, here's our separator plate. There are 2 Phillips head bolts that hold that on. We can get the valve body bolts, and hopefully we got enough battery life left. Tighten those down. Make sure your filters get poking up through that plate. Alright, we have a 390 thousandths ball. Goes right there. There are 4 bolts. One of them has a bracket that holds this in. That are 1-inch 640. Sits on there like so, and there, and there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 of them that are 1" 480. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them that are 1" 200. Alright, tighten that all up. And I forgot, we still got accumulators to go. All the accumulators are now in the valve body. They're not in the case. Alright, green spring, or dark green anyway. Purple. Red spring and purple. All these bolts are the same, so you don't have to worry about screwing them up. Just line this up, tighten this down. Small accumulator, kind of a greenish yellow and kind of a grayish blue. Dark green and purple. And dark green and purple. And then we are done with this valve body. It would be ready to put on the vehicle if we were actually putting it on one. Direct clutch. We have an O-ring. It goes down in here. Bottom groove. That's right there. You have an O-ring on here. And an O-ring on here. Lube that all up. Common question I get is, am I not afraid I'm going to lose a bristle on my brush? Very rarely happens. No, I'm not worried about it. Lube all this up. Put your piston in. Second common question I get, why don't I soak my clutches? Every once in a great while, on certain occasions, I will. I've never noticed a difference between soaking them and not. There are certain times where, yes, I will. But use a good quality clutch. And by the time you fill up your transmission and you let it sit there and run for a little bit, you have soaked your clutches. Return spring. Lube that up. Lube that up. Make sure your springs get in those pockets. Opening of your snap ring. Either needs to be fully inside of this area here or fully in that area right there. I'm going to put it over here where it's totally supported. You notice there's a taper to your snap ring tips. You want the short end up towards you. You want it like that, not like that. And just like that. Start off with the steel, alternate clutches and steels up. Going to end with the pressure plate. You want the rounded edge of the tooth down. And snap ring. Race. Bearing. I have a bearing and race back here. I want to race towards the drum. You have two sealing rings. They are scarf cut to go together just like so. If you need to put some grease in the groove to hold it in place, by all means do that. Here again, you just want to open them up just enough to get them on there, because the more you open them up, they'll tend to stay that way, and you'll end up having to use grease to hold them in there. And even with grease, they may not stay because you put too much tension on them, and they'll tend to want to open. Two-wheel drive. Output shaft has Z-lock sealing rings, 3 of them. And these things, you only want to open it up far enough to get it on there, because you can break them really easy and you'll never even know that you've broken the back of them, and they will not seal properly. So they go together just like so. Oh, come on, get up there, right there. Got a snap ring here, a bearing and race here, and we have a race here. Goes in right there. Alright, make sure your bearing and race is on. Your race is on there. Bearing and race is on there. Bearing and race is on there. We have the snap ring. We have to compress it, and it has to be in those notches right there. Let's see if we can do this on camera. Got lucky with the recase and it went fairly easy. See how well it does this time. See if I can do it by hand. There we go. See how well this goes. There's no need to take this off unless it's bad. Apparently they plan on it getting eat up by the clutches, so it's on. You can unbolt it 30 torques. Make sure your race is on here, cup down, and then this has to all spline together. Let's see if we can do this on camera. Really need it standing up. It sounds down. You can change your bushings, make sure you line up the lube holes on both of them. Race down on your bearing, and then lip down on this race. And I'm just going to grab it with a pair of snap ring pliers, vice grips. Lower this whole thing down in the case at one time. Really no need to take this apart unless it's bad. This is a number 1 sprag. Snap ring there. There's an oil dam. The lip of the sprag faces down. Another oil dam, snap ring on top. There's a race on this sun gear. It goes in that planet also. I'm going to leave it off. It'll be easier to grab the shaft until after we get in there. These clutches go in the case, and we'll get to the piston in a little bit, but the little cutouts right here, they're going to sit at the 6 and about the 5 o'clock position in the case. It's going to sit on top. And this snap ring is going to sit on top. It's beveled. The bevel faces up. I don't remember exactly where the opening goes right now. We'll get to that when we put it in the case. There's a O-ring in here, O-ring out here, O-ring out here. The opening for your park has to be at the bottom. These 2 tabs are going to be about, I think that's 1 and 7 or 2 and 7, something like that. It's going to be sitting in there just like that in the case. The return spring is going to go on, lube that all up, put it in your case. On your snap ring, there's the short end of the taper. I think we already talked about that. It's going to face up, and we're going to put the opening in between these nubs that are right there. Something like that. We're going to do this in 2 sections. We're going to build the drum first, and then we'll do the clutches. So this is the reverse part. There's an O-ring that goes in the bottom groove down here. Here's an O-ring that goes here. And there's an O-ring that goes here. On the overdrive directs. There's two O-rings that go down here. O-ring that goes here. Come on, get up in the groove. And an O-ring that goes here. If it doesn't come in your kit, you need to order the balance piston for this. Rubber gets really hard in this. In fact, this whole drum just basically fell apart because the rubber is no longer even hardly touching. So there's no resistance at all in any of these pistons. Lube all this up. Turn spring. Make sure your springs get in the pockets of this. Then short end of the taper up, opening of the snap ring away from those openings. Alright, lube that up. Lube all this up. Return spring, balance piston, short end of the taper up, and if we can make it happen, we're going to put the opening on each side of that right there. If we can't, we're going to put it something about like that right there. Alright, just like that. Reverse clutch goes cushion plate, dish down, alternate clutches and steels up. No, I guess it should have said steels and clutches because you start off cushion plate steel, then a clutch. I don't want anybody coming back and saying he said it improperly. And then on the reverse, or that's the reverse overdrive direct, alternate clutches and steels up. Rounded edge of the tooth down. And snap ring. Forward clutch. You have an O-ring here. An O-ring here. And an O-ring here. Lube all that up. return spring, balance piston, short end of the taper up, put the opening of our snap ring over in here. We start with the cushion plate, and the dish is going to be down. Alternate steels and clutches all the way up. Rounded edge of the tooth down on your pressure plate, and the snap ring. We have bearing and race. Race side's going to face down. We have the race. Cup is up. And then we have snap ring here, and that opening has to be in that cutout right there. Here we go. Front planet, we have 5 sealing rings, 3 on this side, 2 on the other. Scarf cut, go together just like that. Need to put some grease in the groove, put some grease in there to hold them in place. And there's a bearing, goes together just like so, goes down here. You got the bearing and race. Race side faces down. And then the sun gear goes in this side. And the kit did come with new washers, or mine did. It's a Trans-Tech kit. 4 tabs, they face down. Alright, press your front seal in. O-ring goes here. Outer gear, the dot faces up. Inner gear, the dot faces down. Come on out of there. Quit messing with me. O-ring on your speed sensor. Lube up your stator. Lube up your pump O-ring. Okay, 2 of the 30 Torx bolts need to go in now. And our speed sensor goes in here. O-ring goes on the outside. And our thrust washer needs to let's see how this goes. Sits in there just like that right there. Here's the 12 millimeters that are going to go to hold it to the case. Put a little bead of silicone underneath the head of those.
Is the Infinity getting a new number? No? I wonder why they send that out.
I don't know. Okay, we have 4 sealing rings. They are Z-locks. And where's our opening right there? Just open these just enough to get that around there and on there. Number 1 brake piston, O-ring, that ain't right. Oh, wrong spot, that's one. O-ring out here, and O-ring down here. Lube that all up. Okay, all the holes face over here, and our return spring only goes on one way, and then you're going to have to turn this until it lines up. And then we have 30 Torx bolts that hold that down in place, and that's going to also hold that washer. So make sure all that is in its proper place and tighten it down. Here's our clutches for that. I got no good way to hold this thing that I have found as of yet. So we have our race cup side down, and in case I missed talking about it, our lug is there, our lug is there, our port opening is right there. You set your output planet and output shaft in all at one time. Races on your sun gear, put your sun gear in. Okay, the opening is there and there, and the big tab is right there. Alternate clutches and steels up, and goes the same place. And our top steel, it's got a smaller tab. And didn't go quite as planned. Need a longer pair of snap ring pliers, but a big snap ring pliers are too big to get in there. You want the bevel up on your snap ring, and you want the opening at the 6 o'clock. Let's see if I can move it a little bit. Yeah, we'll leave it right there. Alright, we have our race there, have our bearing here, our bearing here. Race here to cup in, and the race sitting on top. Make sure your bearing and race is on there. Race is on here. Sounds down. Bearing and race. Sun gear, bearing, washer. Put your drum on top of your planet. Sounds like it's down, but it don't look like it's down. Well, we'll just measure it, see if it's down. Alright, pressure plate down. The tab right there. And alternate clutches and steels up. Lube up your case. Lube up your O-ring. Line up your speed sensor with the hole. Bolts in, put a little bead of silicone underneath those, and then tighten them down. Let me get this up on the bench and change the camera angle, and we'll put the valve body on. I get questions all the time about taking the linkage out of a Toyota. I don't never take them out. I don't never take the linkages out. I just get a pocket screwdriver in here and pop my linkage seal out, clean that out, lube up the new one, stick it in. People insist on taking these things out, so you need to, right there is where the roll pin is. You need to turn this to there. Well, turn it back a little bit. Where's my roll pin at? It's usually where the roll pin is at. They decide to put a damn dimple in it. There it is. And come on, turn just a little bit more. That should be close enough. Pretty damn close to it. Okay. And just drive the roll pin out. And you're going to have to use some force because it's going to poke through that, because there's not a hole on the other side. You're going to create one. Pull it out, and when you get this off, take this thing and throw it away. It does not need it. That roll pin is not going anywhere. There we go. Just put the new seal in, and then we'll go through putting the linkage on in a minute. Lube up your seal. You can stick that in. You probably just push it in by hand most of the time, and it goes just a little bit below flush. Pass-through linkage. Or selector shaft, whatever you want to call it. E-clip goes on our pivot pin. And our spring goes on here. goes in a hole. And this one, most of them, older stuff, it goes underneath. For linkage rod, park rod in. Our guide. And 12mm bolts. Our O-ring on our plug, 17mm. I think you can get a good enough view of that. The neutral switch. Okay, once our valve body gets on, I should have showed this before I stuck it on there. Once our valve body gets on, we put the linkage in neutral. This right here is our neutral line, and this is going to need to be lined up with that. And then you tighten your bolt down, and you can tighten your 7/8 nut down. Once you get all that tight and our linkage goes on and lock nut or lock washer and nut, here's our detent stiffener. It's going to go on just like that. A 10mm bolt that holds that on to the valve body. Have our cooler check valve and spring, same as all the Toyotas use. Have our pass-through connector with an O-ring, lube that up. A 10mm bolt that holds that in. Speed sensor goes there. Speed sensor goes there. plug in that speed sensor. The wire goes underneath there. You have two 10mm that hold that in. Alright, let me unpack the valve body and we'll get that put on. Hook your manual lever into your rooster comb. Alright, our shorter bolts go here. Our two long ones go up here. And it's pretty stinking short. And another long one here. Alright, two shortest ones go over here. Maybe it does go up here. Yeah, it goes up here. Doesn't have a spot to rest against like does not have a spot to rest against like the older ones. Temp sensor and O-ring. Filter and O-ring. $10mm bolts for that. Pan gasket and pan. $10mm that hold that in. The last thing is the flange on the back, and you're not going to be able to see it because the camera doesn't point that way. So we'll just talk about it. Let me get these started and then we'll talk about it. Okay, there is a seal in here. It faces this way into there. In the back of the case, there's a place for this to go. This little step faces in. Then our shim. Then our yoke goes on. Put your rear seal in and put your nut on. Once it's on and tight, stake it in place. And this is your check hole, this is your fill hole, and there's also a fill hole on the side. Other than that, I guess we're done with this unit.